Members, we have just gone 2 o'clock by the Guildhall, so if we're all ready, we will make a start on this meeting. I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to take us through the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to attend a special meeting of the Council, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council chamber in the Guildhall today, Monday, the 13th of February at 2 o'clock. Alderman Breslin. Alderman Devaney.
Here, John.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey. Alderman Carrigan. Alderman McCready.
Present online, John.
Alderman McMorris. Alderman Thompson.
Here, John.
Alderman Work.
Here, John.
Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Here, John.
Councillor John Boyle. Councillor Michaela Boyle.
And Shaw online, John.
Councillor Carr. Councillor Cusick. Councillor Dobbins.
Yes, John.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Sure.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Ferguson.
Here, John.
Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin. Councillor Heaney.
Shaw.
Councillor Jackson.
Shaw.
Councillor Kelly.
Shaw.
Councillor Logue. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan.
Shaw. Online.
Councillor McGuire. Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor McKinney.
Here, John.
Councillor Mooney. Councillor Norris.
Here, John.
Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Riley.
Here, John.
Councillor Sineroy Barr.
Here, John.
Councillor Tierney. Thank you, members. Just checking back.
Now, John.
Alderman Breslin, yeah?
Yes, here, John.
Thank you. Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey, yes. Alderman Carrigan.
Here, Sean Mooney.
So many.
Councillor Mooney, thank you. Just checking Alderman Carrigan. Alderman McMorris.
Yeah.
Here, John.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
John
Okay.
Boyle here, Mayor.
John Boyle as well. Yeah, gotcha, John.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So just in terms of the broadcasting statement, I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the Guildhall or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council's privacy notice is found on the Council website. Okay, thank you, everyone. We also have any declarations of interest, if they could be made in the chat box or by raising your hand as we come to it, and we can take note of that. So thank you. So open for decision at this meeting. Chairperson's business. I don't have any chairperson's business, which takes us straight into item 6 on the agenda, which is the striking of the district rate 2023-2024. There is a new paper that has been circulated within the last 45 minutes, I'm sure, that outlines decisions that have already been taken or the proposal of those decisions. So the paper is with you. It is in ModGov for those that it's working for. I have it emailed here, so I have it open in front of me. And there is a recommendation in that the council strikes district rate increase at 7.97% for the 2023-24 financial year. The key components of which are detailed in the report that is also attached. So I suppose what I need to do is open that up to the floor now for a proposer and a seconder for that report that we have in front of us and for that recommendation. I am happy then to open to the floor for speakers, and all speakers need to have raised their hand and declared their intention to speak before we go to a vote, because once the vote is taken, there will be no further speakers and I'll be bringing in the Chief Executive. So if we're clear. So we have the recommendation in front of us. If we could get a proposer and seconder. But people like to speak to the report before we go to the proposer and seconder, but just be clear that once we go to a vote, there will be no further speakers. Councillor Gallagher.
Just as a point of order, if we don't get a proposer and a seconder, we just move on.
I'm not quite sure. I would need to check the legalities of it, but we have a proposal coming from the confidential meeting, which is that we take this proposal of the 7.97% as our district rate.
Mayor, does our standing order say if we don't get a proposer or a seconder, we move on? Is that what our standing order says?
No, it doesn't say that. So we don't move on, so we'll just keep talking. Councillor Donnelly.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, there was a meeting on here on Friday and people were very vigorous and confident when they were attacking others who didn't money support the rates rise. And we're talking about people, dereliction of duty and how, they had responsibility and how other people were polluted and fantasy stuff. And now the day when this is out in front of the public, they obviously nobody is confident enough to be associated with it. So if there's nobody going to propose and second this, where does that leave us? Can I propose that we don't accept it? Can I make that proposal?
Yes, you can make that proposal.
I'd like to make that.
So the proposal is that we don't accept that proposal, and it's seconded by Councillor Gallagher. Okay, that's a proposal that's on the floor. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. And I'm supporting the motion not to strike the rate, and I'm doing it for quite a number of reasons. And for the past year, I've been looking at council finances, and I've been looking across the board, and I see this target that has been set for a rate rise, and I think it's about driving austerity on the people of this district that are facing grave hardship. I see it as the parties in here pushing a Tory agenda. This striking a rate, to me, is no worse than Maggie Thatcher tax. And that's the way the people of Strabane are going to see it. The people of Strabane are going to be asking questions around the responsibilities of this council and what it sees as, and they're quite rightly shouting it from the rooftops, the failure to deliver. We spoke earlier, no leisure centre. We have seen headlines after headlines after headlines over the last 10 years. We would get a leisure centre, still not there. We've seen for the last 12 years a town park, Riverine project, shelved. We don't see any footbridge. We were promised a footbridge, headlines, we're getting a footbridge, not delivered. see about this, the city deal, not delivered and looking very, very vulnerable. So the people of Strabane, all they've seen is the debt that's been incurred by this council and the previous council of Derry City. Debt. And that debt was incurred by providing facilities in the city. Not in Strabane. Still wanting, time and time again, still wanting a river ring or town park, city deal, leisure centre, all public realm, £7 million for public realm, still not there. Headline after headline, field headlines, that's what they are. And now we're saying we're going to cut services. We're going to cut street cleaning. Going to cut tree planting around the town. Going to be gone. Cut back. So the people of Strabane are going to be paying a whole lot more for a whole lot less. And we're looking at field delivery. So I'm saying to the parties in this chamber today, before this vote is taken, don't push that austerity on the people of Strabane. We had a chance on here on Friday to take it further afield. There's a duplication that this council is spending where it should be on central government. We had a chance. He was running around the city on Friday. Everybody knew it. Nobody wanted to pull him and say, what are you doing? What is your government doing? Forcing austerity on the people of this city and district. Nothing. People didn't want to know. Didn't want to know. And we're sitting today now with a proposal on the table that I'm saying, don't move it. Don't put it through. And we go back to the drawing table and we demand from central government, bail out this council. Because this council is in financial trouble and we're not putting that financial burden on the hard working people of this district who are working poor, and this is forcing them into more hardship. So don't do it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Raymond Barr online.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to concur with everything that Councillor Gallagher has just said. And it's ironic that the town of Strabane, which is possibly the highest instance of social and economic deprivation of all the council districts, should be hammered with excessive rate hikes every year. You know, it's my opinion that the amalgamation of Strabane with Derry City Council hasn't worked. It certainly hasn't worked for Strabane. I don't remember Strabane Town Centre ever being in the worst state that it is now. Every year we're paying more and getting less. I can't vote for any rates increase. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. We support Councillor Donnelly's proposal not to strike a rate of 8% and not to go through with cuts of millions of pounds to council services and not to increase council prices. As everybody knows, we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, the worst in decades, and many households across our district are struggling like never before. We as a council agreed in November that we would not impose an unfair rates burden on people. We agreed we would not slash and burn council services, and we agreed that we wouldn't raise council prices. What we are voting on today, if the five major parties get their way, is to do the exact opposite of that. So not only is there a complete and utter trampling of council democracy where motions don't matter anymore, the people in our society and in our district and in this across Derry who have the least are going to be hammered again. And I think that we shouldn't strike a rate of 8%. We struck a much lower rate last year, and this will be a doubling of that rate when the actual cost of living crisis is far worse. It's not true that there aren't alternatives. We believe that this council didn't fight hard enough for alternatives, and we could have been a beacon to other councils who are facing similar challenges. We can't just go along with the Tory idea that we cut, that you can't get a pay raise that our public services are going to be cut, hospitals are going to be cut, Translink prices are going up, and now we're putting more burden on people from a council point of view. The vast majority of people I've spoken to on picket lines in their homes are shocked that our council is going to basically follow what the Tories are doing and tell people there is no alternative. There is an alternative, and our council shouldn't be leading that. Should be leading that fight rather than falling over and going along with cuts, price increases, and another burdensome rates increase.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Don't see any further speakers on this. Chief Executive, I'm going to ask you to take us through a vote on it.
I won't be supporting the 7.97% increase there. I think we're all very, very aware what's happening out here in our district and our lovely city, and it's the cost of living. People struggling at the minute. They've had food in their tables. People queued up for food banks. The panic of their electric getting turned off, and the struggle just to heat their own homes at the minute. With this further increase, that's totally against. And as I sit here in this council chamber, I won't be dictated to nobody in Belfast, no political party, on the citizens down in this area, which way they raise my hand, and I won't be supporting that today. It's very difficult times, yes, and I know we're all aware about this, but I think a further increase, I think we had opportunities on Friday. I like the members laughed in this chamber at them, and we had the Secretary of State in this city, only 400 metres away from this chamber, and I'm sure a few were very, very well aware he was here. And as I said, if it even took it down 0.01% for our citizens, that's all that mattered, trying. So, Mayor, I won't be supporting any increase in rates today.
Thank you. Any further speakers on this? No.
I just want to state something on the new paper that we just got out for this meeting. And 9.15% of the rates rise, which we are due to strike, is for pay awards for council staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Chief Executive, I'm calling the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Breslin.
Is this for the amendment?
This, Alderman Breslin, is for Councillor Donnelly's proposal, which we should perhaps...
Against.
Thank you. Alderman Devaney.
Against.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey.
Against.
Alderman McCready.
Against.
Alderman McMorris.
Against, John.
Alderman Thompson.
Against, John.
Alderman Wark. Councillor Raymond Barr.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Carr. Councillor Cusick. Councillor Dobbins.
Against.
Councillor Donnelly.
Or.
Councillor Doyle.
Or.
Councillor Alex Duffy.
Against.
Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Against.
Councillor Farrell.
Against.
Councillor Ferguson.
Against.
Councillor Gallagher.
Or.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Heaney.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against.
Councillor Kelly.
Against.
Councillor Logue. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan.
Against.
Councillor McHugh.
Against.
Councillor McKinney.
Against.
Councillor Mooney.
Against.
Councillor Norris.
Against.
Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Riley.
Against.
Councillor Sinoy Barr.
Against.
Councillor Tierney. Thank you, members.
Sorry, Alderman Keith Kerrigan against.
Thank you. Mayor, I've recorded 28 for, 29 against, so the proposal falls.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. That brings us back to our original recommendation in the report is that council strikes a district rate increase of 7.97%. So just for clarity, 7.97% for the 2023-24 financial year. Again, putting that out for a proposer, seconder at this point. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. Mayor, tell me, how long do we sit here if we don't get a proposer and a seconder? How long is a piece of string, is it? You know. Well, what's our option?
We have had meetings of this rates process that have lasted up to 5 hours, where we have taken really difficult decisions, and we have gone through numbers, and Friday's meeting was a 5-hour meeting. We have gone through a really challenging process from the financial working group. We have come through a confidential meeting just earlier this afternoon, where there was agreement in the room. So I'm giving people the space at this point. There was a proposal from Councillor Donnelly and seconded by you that we reject this recommendation, which was voted down. So I'm in the space now of the recommendation. So I'm just going to give people space. Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I've never been at a meeting where nobody has agreed to put forward a proposal and second it and waited this long. So I would propose, if none of the parties who have said that they're going to support this 8% rates hike and millions in cuts for services and price hikes, if none of them are prepared to actually put that forward today, I propose that we adjourn the meeting. We were told on Friday that there wasn't enough time to follow through on the content of a motion that the full council agreed to in November, which included meeting the Secretary of State. And then we found out that the Secretary of State was here in the city and no meeting was organised with him so that we could put our appeal to him for government intervention to avoid an unfair rates hike, to avoid a slash and burn of our council services, and to avoid price hikes. So if nobody's prepared to do that, I propose we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, there's a proposal on the floor that we adjourn the meeting. It's seconded by Councillor Donnelly. Would anyone have any opinion on that? Councillor Jackson?
I'm a good mayor, and we won't be supporting the proposal to adjourn the meeting. It's a responsibility for us to strike a rate, and I think it's something that we've all taken seriously. And I suppose the implications of not striking a rate has been laid out very clearly to us. It will result in potential council going under liquidation, potential legal challenges, and the complete halt to a large amount of council services and council staff being put on notice. So that's not something that we could support, and I think it's only right to point that out. It is disappointing because we did have a confidential meeting beforehand, and I suppose the normal practice would be that those that made a proposal and seconded a proposal at a confidential meeting would be afforded the opportunity to do that at the open meeting. those that made that proposal and seconded it haven't come forward. That's the position that we were in, is we were allowing those that made those proposals in confidential, they come forward and do it in an open business. They haven't done it, but we won't be supporting any proposal they defer or adjourn the meeting. I think we're here to get the work of this council done, and we're not going to be playing on the chaos agenda of ours. So I know that vote has to be put to the floor, but from our perspective, it's not something that we could support. Thanks, Mayor.
Any further comments on the proposal to adjourn? No. Okay, I'm going to call a vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. On the proposal to adjourn, Alderman Breslin,
Against?
Alderman Devaney,
Against?
Alderman Guy, Alderman Hussey, Alderman Carrigan,
Against, John.
Alderman McCready,
Against?
Alderman McMorris,
Against, John.
Alderman Thompson,
Against, John.
Alderman Wark, Councillor Raymond Barr,
Or?
Councillor John Boyle,
Against.
Councillor Michaela Boyle,
Against.
Councillor Carr, Councillor Cusack, Councillor Dobbins,
Against.
Councillor Donnelly,
Or
Councillor Doyle,
Or
Councillor Alex Duffy,
Against.
Councillor Sandra Duffy,
Against.
Councillor Farrell, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Gallagher,
Or.
Councillor Harkin, Councillor Heaney,
against.
Councillor Jackson,
Against.
Councillor Kelly,
Against?
Councillor Logue, Councillor McGinley, Councillor McGowan,
Against.
Councillor McHugh,
Against.
Councillor McKinney, Councillor Mooney, Councillor Norris, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Riley,
Against.
Councillor Sinai Barr,
Against.
Councillor Tierney. Thank you, members. Mayor, that's 8, 4 and 29 against, so the proposal falls.
Okay, thank you. So no adjournment of the meeting. So back to the proposal that is in the pack that was agreed upon at the confidential meeting, which is that we strike the district rate at 7.97%. And again, I'm going to call for a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Donnelly.
No, I'm not proposing. But look, obviously people here aren't confident in what they would do in confidential. Is it possible that they could go and they make it easier for them to go into confidential and you might get a different result? Somebody might behind the scenes and say, let's hammer the people of the city and district. Okay.
Okay, district rates need to be set in open business. So Councillor McKinney.
I actually seconded the original motion when we were in confidential, and I'm quite happy to propose if we can get somebody to second it.
Thank you, Councillor McKinney, for that. I now need a seconder for the proposal. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, in the absence of the person that proposed, I'm coming forward on behalf of Sinn Féin. We're not happy, but we're content to second the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. So we now have a proposal on the floor that has been proposed by Councillor McKinney, seconded by Councillor Jackson. And I just want to highlight again, before I call a vote, you have the opportunity to speak. Once the vote is called, there will be no further comment on it. So opening that up to the floor, Councillor Jackson, you just indicated.
Mayor, and I suppose there's the Councillor Logue alluded to some of the commitments that we made, and as a council in terms of supporting our workers, giving workers a fair pay raise during a cost of living crisis, and that's something we as a party completely stand over. But we have to acknowledge that we as a council, the same as all local authorities, are facing significant financial pressures because of over a decade of Tory cuts, Brexit, and soaring energy costs and the cost of living crisis. And it has been compounded by the DUP's ongoing refusal to form an executive, which has left local councils unable to avail of the kind of support packages which we've benefited from in the past, such as the 33 million in additional funding which Communities Minister Deirdre Hargey secured last year. The failure to form an executive has left their public services staff and their families even more exposed to the impact of savage budget cuts imposed by the Tory government in London. And our priority has been to maintain and deliver public services, to ensure fair pay settlements for council workers, and that we stand over the commitments that we give to them. We protect jobs and ensure that work continues in crucial regeneration projects and attracting investment to this region. Over the past year, we've worked collectively to minimise the rates burden on households, and that piece of work is going to need to continue as we go on the uncertainty of the coming years. And whilst we do that, our focus will always be to protect essential council services, such as waste collection, sports, art and leisure facilities, environmental projects, and the support for the valuable work that goes on at community and voluntary level. And to do that, we do need to set a budget to work towards. And none of us wanted to come on in the midst of all of this to increase the rates in any way. But the alternative which has been outlined, would be disastrous. And it would mean that we renege on the commitments that we've give people, particularly those that roll out the vital services on behalf of us as council employees. So and on that basis, we will be supporting the rates proposal that was put forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. And can I start by thanking Alfie, John, their teams and the officers and directors for the support, because this has been a lot of hard work that they've done for the last 6+ months, and it needs to be recognised formally. Being part of the Finance Working Group really opened our eyes to the pressures that council are facing. The fact that our starting position was nearly 19% increase in the rate. Council officers have presented us the whole way through with proposals to try and find savings and efficiencies, but with the core value that we did not want to see any mandatory redundancies and that there was little impact to our core and statutory services. Mayor, it's been a long and hard road. The working group did as much as they could with officers to bring that down to 10%. I know we had a 5-hour meeting on Friday, which was able to bring us down to the position that we currently in, and we in Alliance came through the process to understand that our decisions here in this chamber have a huge impact on our electorate and to our council. We wanted to ensure our staff were paid fairly, that they felt valued, and we wanted to make sure our residents here in the city and district didn't see a huge change to the level of service that we provide. But we also need to put the responsibility back on departments who've refused in previous years to retain a level of service here in the city and district, and ultimately council stepped up into that space and picked up those tasks at the cost of our ratepayer. Mayor, it's our statutory duty to strike a rate. We've heard all the implications and the liability to council and councillors if we didn't. We knew from very early on it was going to we wanted to get this rate down as low as possible. But there are people in this chamber who say that we should have opted for a 0% rate. That would put our services and everyone that's employed at council at risk. We heard that would mean closing facilities like leisure centres and redundancies across our teams. Mayor, this has not been an enjoyable experience. It's an extremely difficult process, and we've taken it incredibly slow, and I thank officers for that. And I know it's taken a big chunk of their time to meet with us to discuss the implications of this. So we knew that we weren't in a position to offer 0% rate. Mayor, again, this has been tough from getting down from 19% to 7.97%. But I think people genuinely have come forward to see what they could do to try and minimise that impact. Mayor, we in Alliance are happy to support the proposal to strike the rate at 7.97%. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Tierney.
Mayor, thank you. And on behalf of the SDLP, can I thank all of our senior officer team for the work that they've put in over this last number of days, but particularly over this last number of months when meeting with us collectively as a body of elected representatives at the Financial Working Group, and then meeting with our group individually as well as time was ticking on. And even early enough this morning, the Chief Financial Officer was able to take a call to see if we could drive this down any further. We really appreciate their efforts and all of the information that they provided us with throughout this process. 7.97% is not something that we are happy about supporting, but we understand that unfortunately there is no support coming from central government, and that's where it needs to come. We have at every level of our party been calling for support from central government. We have been ignored. We have no executive in Stormont to help out. We have noticed and seen since throughout the lifetime of this council the reduction in the rate support grant and what that means for this council. We have no clear understanding of what the regional rate may or may not be. And again, that causes us great worry. But we understand that we have a statutory responsibility to ensure that a budget is set for this council and to ensure that services are allowed to run as efficiently as we possibly can. We have grave concerns around 7.97, but we find ourselves in an unfortunate position of that's where the rate has landed. It has reduced from up and around 19%, and that's through the work of this council, both the officer team and the elected members. We need to have a serious look at how and what finances is coming into this council and how we best manage them. And I think, the work of the Financial Working Group has certainly given us a better understanding of what it is we need and how we need to get there. But I think that work shouldn't finish now because this RITS process is brought to an end. I think that work needs to continue, and we need to do all we can to ensure that whatever we're looking at next year, that we have an understanding of that, and that we're working from now to try and bring that down, similar to be done this year. 7.97, as I've said already, is not something that we're happy with at all, but we find ourselves on the unfortunate and very reluctant position where we have to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, we're in a hardship emergency. That's what this council voted to say over a year ago. And that hardship emergency has only got worse. And we know that many households right across our district and business organisations and community organisations are struggling like never before. And that's why we believe that setting a rate of almost 8%, while we also slash funding for council services and raise council prices, is absolutely unacceptable, and we'll not be backing this. I think people across our district are going to be angry about this. They're fed up being told that prices need to go up, and then they look at headlines that say that BP and Shell and banks are making more money than they've ever made in their corporate histories. And parties keep saying there's economic turbulence, there's this, there's that. There's one thing that's driving this crisis, and that's corporate profiteering. And those headlines about the historic profits of those big companies make it very, very clear. And by setting this rate and allowing this to go through, we are compounding that crisis on people. We believe there is an alternative and there's more that could have been done. The DUP on Friday attacked people before profit and others who made it clear we weren't going to back this rates hike, saying we were shirking our responsibility. How ironic when a party now has blocked Stormont from functioning for well over a year, compounding the crisis here, and also a party that has backed up Tory austerity now for over 15 years. Absolutely disgraceful. The DUP need to wise up. They're not going to lecture people before profit about our votes in this council. Sinn Féin, every headline you read is stand up to Tory austerity. Here's an opportunity to do this, because that's what this is. This is Tory austerity working its way through our council. And we think it's disgraceful that Sinn Féin would try to blame workers getting a pay raise and pit them against ratepayers. That's unacceptable. The Tories have said over and over again, workers' pay rises is going to drive inflation. We reject that narrative. And our council workers never got a pay raise in nearly 25 years. It's been 25 years of pay appreciation. And the pay raise that they did get, which they deserved, was not above inflation. It was a mediocre pay raise that they well deserved and that they had to go out and strike for. This was not handed to them. They had to go out on picket lines and fight for it. So we reject the idea that workers are to blame for this unacceptable rates increase. The SDLP have said that they don't want to do this because it's an unfair rates hike. Last year, when the rate was less than half of this, they voted against it and attacked everybody that was around who supported it and said, so for us, this is the height of hypocrisy. Why now, when the rates crisis is when the cost of living crisis is actually worse, would you ram through a rates increase of almost 8% along with massive cuts? It's not acceptable. And this is literally talking out of both sides of your mouth, and I think people will see through it. For us, all five parties are saying to people outside, there is no alternative to Tory austerity. Alliance might say that they're an alternative to Orange and Green, but not when it comes to cuts, because this is more cuts on top of cuts and on top of hardship. People are on picket lines all across this city and district. Teachers, nurses, healthcare workers, housing executive maintenance workers, environmental, Royal Mail workers, dockers, and they're all being told by employers there is no alternative, there is no money. If you get a raise, it's going to cause a government crisis. They all believe that there is an alternative because people can see that there's an alternative. We are going to stand with them. We think our council could have resisted and should resist, just the way tens of thousands of people are resisting Tory austerity right now. There is an alternative. Our council should be leading the way in fighting for it. And there's two sides in this debate, and very clearly and unfortunately, the five big parties are coming down on the wrong side.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. In June of last year, this council unanimously backed an into motion to declare a cost of living emergency. And in November of last year, the vast majority of members of this council backed an into motion to establish warm banks throughout this city and district. Nobody wanted to do it, but we felt that we had to help people. Now what we're hearing is we don't want to do it, but we're not going to help people. The backbone of our opposition as a party to this rate rise, which is over double that of last year, is because Stormont has pulled funding year in, year out for programmes that we are left to carry the can for, because there's a duplication of services, as we've all agreed, and because of the neglect that is demonstrated by some Stormont agencies in this city and district, which we've also discussed. We've been told that there's no magic money tree. I find that hard to believe. I find it hard to believe because during COVID, the Department for Communities was able to give £1.5 million to a luxurious golf club at Royal County Down. They were able to give £620,000 to Belfast Arts venues. What you'll notice about both those is that none of them are in this district. The rate support grant has been cut every single year since 2017. That's both when ministers weren't and were in office, So there are parties whose ministers in this chamber cut the rate support grant. What we're asking people to sign off on today is £510 more a year for businesses with rent over £20,000. That's most of the businesses likely in the city centre here and right across the district. If there's no magic money tree, where did the millions come from for RHI? Where did the £1.6 million only last week come from Westminster for MPs' pay raises? And where did all the money come from to pay MLAs over the last year who haven't been doing their job because the DUP won't go back to work? Now, this isn't a blame game, and I'm not getting into that. But last week in Gaelia, I went down to a house where there are 2 adults working and 2 young children. And at the end of the month, the most that they could hope for over the last 8 months left in their bank account was £9.88. I don't know how we can sit here, any of us, and say that we want to support people through a cost of living crisis. And then when there is a choice to be made, and there is a choice, not to add 1 penny on to the burden that people are already experiencing, we can sit here and do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't know how anybody could. And for all the doom and gloom that's been talked about in this council about how the roof would fall on if we didn't strike a rate, I'd love to see it. I'd love to try it. Let's do that. Let's say today we're not going to set a rate. We're not going to hammer our own people, because do you know what? See, until those 3 strands that I have outlined, that I haven't heard anybody speak against, are sorted out, we're going to be doing this year and next year and every single other year. And we can't say that we didn't know about it, and we can't say we didn't have over responsibility over it, because parties in this chamber have been in Stormont for 20 years. We won't be supporting a rate rise today because we're going to stand by people who cannot afford to live in this city and district with a rate rise from last year, never mind a rate rise from this year.
Okay, Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, look, there's one thing about this whole process is, to me, that I wish we could have changed. I wish the attitude that elected reps on here had during a confidential meeting could be seen by the public. There was a lot of talk about we won't abdicate our responsibilities. People are calling for political leadership, and that was the type of language that people were using in their sort of attempt to justify why they need to strike rates. Anybody come up with an alternative view, and that was ridiculed. Alderman Guy, I'm no fan of any British Secretary of State. Sorry, but Alderman Hussey made a proposal, and there was almost a spontaneous burst of laughing. He was serious about his proposal, and he was probably right. But everybody laughed. He was probably only a couple of 100 yards, maybe in another council facility. Councillor Gallagher was called deluded. People were accused of being, our elected representatives were accused of being sleeping for the last year, and people are accused of just wanting to stand in picket lines and shout. Very dangerously close to undermining and ridiculing trade union activity. But the sad thing about it is, Chair, is that most of the representatives in here and the representatives that I work with are working hard on the ground, and therefore they know what people are going through. I've been in contact with different parties in here and regarding issues that I couldn't solve. If it's a vulnerable pensioner in our district, I have no problem contacting Sinn Féin. If it's somebody in a unionist area, I have no problem contacting an Ulster unionist. And I've worked with members of the SDLP, and each of them cases are people who are very, very vulnerable and struggling. And I, for the life of me, don't understand how knowing that type of stuff is happening on a daily basis, because, it's a two-way process. People will approach me for something that I may bring to the table, and then can come on here and do this. When are we going to stand up? See all the duplication. Stormont is no longer paying for cutting the grass. They're doing it because they know this council is going to roll over and say, oh, we need to cut the grass. We need to pay for the car parks. We need to pump money on the Visit Derry. And it's going to continue and continue and continue and keep cutting the rates grant. And it will happen until we decide we need to stand up. Stormont, in my opinion, rotten to the core. And sometimes in here you'll get parties that'll go, there is an alternative and it's called self-determination. But the same people are constantly calling for Stormont to be reopened. Constantly, the biggest cheerleaders of get it opened, get it opened. Get it opened for what? It hasn't produced any. And to me, that's a contradiction in terms. That's a counter-democratic process. It's a process like that that is stopping a potential process of self-determination. And I just, I do not understand the flippancy and confidential and the allegations and the insults. And then when the camera's turned on, suddenly we won't abdicate our responsibility and we'll show leadership. It goes out the window. I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Neil.
Thank you, Mayor. Look at ordinary people and ordinary residents of our city and district. They didn't create this cost of living crisis, but they're being made to foot the bill. And the thing is, we know that this cost of living crisis was coming well before Stormont collapsed. But typical of the Stormont executive, they stood by and did nothing whilst this crisis spiralled, and they didn't put any of the safeguards that they could have done to protect ordinary people and to protect councils, which is the only government body that's actually working here. They've only bowed down to Tory rule. And this council, over the years, has put far too much money into services and things that the Stormont executive should actually be funding. The reality behind the doors, the reality behind this rates increase is that people are going to struggle further. It's going to be met with so much anger, we know that, but it's also going to be met with fear. You know, people are literally counting pennies right now. They, you know, from week to week, I know that we've broken this down to make it look as small as possible about how much to pay the rates increase will cost extra each week. But that is where people are at. They're struggling to pay their bills. They're struggling to buy food. They're struggling to heat their homes. They're struggling now to even travel to their workplaces or to their caregivers because of the price of travel has just increased as well. And this is placing further financial hardship for people. People Before Profit feels it's absolutely unjustifiable to add this further hardship to people in our city and district. And we don't just have a rates increase, but we have service cuts, which people rely on, and we also have price hikes. The cost of living crisis is nothing more than a cost of greed crisis. And we've said that before, and we've seen it evidenced by the massive profits that are being made by the super rich and also by corporations, and in particular the oil giants, and it's absolutely obscene. There is an alternative. Councillor Harkin has outlined that with the workers that are brave enough to stand out on picket lines and ask for what they're being told is absolutely impossible. But they're leading by example, and they're leading the fight for above inflation pay increases, but also for better public services. And we, as a council, have let these people down, and we've let people down who voted, each and every one of us, and they fight for them. This council has just implemented austerity, and we didn't fight hard enough to prevent this from happening. People Before Profit will continue to fight with communities on the ground and campaign for the fundamental change that we truly need to see in our society.
Thank you, Councillor Neil. I have no further indicated speakers. I'm going to give a bit of space because once the vote's called, I can't. Alderman Gay.
And all the officers as well for putting this together. It's been a long process with the finance group going from I think it was September onwards. Maybe not what we wanted to get at the end of it, 7.97, probably a lot higher than what we would have really wanted to be at. But look, no one wanted to hike. All members did submit ideas to cut the rate. Some accepted, some rejected. But they made an effort. You know, I know there's people here would like to see it at zero, and we'd all love to see it at zero. But nobody put forward any proposals to get it that low. And when you're going that low, you're affecting people's jobs. People who we all voted on here to give a pay rise to, our workers, our staff. But yet, take it to zero and they'll all be out of a job. You know, what good's a pay rise ending? But listen, we can take it to a zero if we want. I just think that the process that we followed was worthwhile. I would have liked to have seen it lower. I think it's something that we do have to continue through the year because there's a lot more work has to be done and work into next year's budget as well. But I think the process that we done late on, where we were given what a 0% rates increase would look like, moved us all along. And I think that's something that we have to start at the next time round as well. But I'll leave it at that, Mayor. What's been said already has been said. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. Alderman Kerrigan, and then yourself, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in. And I do thank the officers for all of the hard work that has taken place over this many months and the most detailed rates process which we've been involved in my tenure in council there. And every department has been looked at. And to be fair, a lot of councillors there a lot longer than myself have seen, have went through in great detail onto every section. And there was good work done at the financial working group. And we've got to look at where we started at. We started at 18.92%, almost 19%. We've got down to 7.97. It's far from ideal, but we have almost taken 11%, 10.95% off our rates from our starting process. Yes, we would have liked to have got down as low as possible, but given the constraints and given there's constraints that were placed on the financial working group, I mean, one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that there were no compulsory redundancies and protect workers. And that is one of the things that we all adhere to, connected with that financial working group, and we have succeeded in that. There were other options on the table. There were more severe lines that we could have taken, but it would have resulted in job losses. And we did the best we could for our staff to keep staff there. It was one of the key stones and what we were doing in that job. So we have that. It's been exceptionally difficult. It has been. We and again, as has been stated earlier by other members, you know, our pay pressures are in excess of 9%, and our costs then in regards to insurances, in regards to heat and light, in regards to fuel, is another 3%. So that's over 12% of increases which we have had to suffer. So to get down to 7.97%, as again, no one's going to be happy with it. But we have done the best that we could. And again, I thank all those that participated and worked in the financial working group, all the officers for all their work, and all the members who were who assisted in regards to it. But it's that work continues now. Once this rate is set, that work must continue, because there's got to be things that we've got to look at for next year. There's got to be areas maybe where we've got to decide maybe council shouldn't be in this area or that area, but we've got to do it. And again, Mayor, we're not going to just be, there's a lot of hot air there from some members there today. And but where was their alternatives? Did they attend the financial working group? Some of them did, and I'll admit that. Some of them didn't. Some of them attended for half an hour and away again at a meeting that lasted 6 or 7 hours. Yeah, you know. So, and again, we do have our usual fan club there, Mayor. But as I say, it's the case there that work has been done. Yes, it's far from ideal, but we have got to a position, and I feel that it is something that we must strike. And members are lamenting here, individuals, but it is the case. One of the roles as an elected representative is to set the rate, and we will not shirk our responsibilities. There are certain members who would bankrupt this council in the morning, without a shadow of a doubt. They will spend and spend and spend, and they have no whether it's they have no idea that someone else will come behind them and pick up the tab. But we have got to live within our means, and none of us are content or none of us are happy with it. But we have to go this line. As I say, I thank you all for all the members who've been constructive and all the officers. As I say, we've lowered this rate by almost 11% from our starting position. So we will support it today. Not happy, but we are content to support it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. And like others, thanks to all officers who have been involved in a very long and tedious process. I've heard some calling out big business, BP, Shell, the banks. By the way, I'm not aware of how they contribute to our council finances. I've heard government called out, and I agree to a large degree. There's been a lot of buck passing to local authorities without the necessary resources, whether that's from regional or central government. And council has, as has been alluded to, taken on responsibilities that they should never have had to take on. And that is something that come June with a new council, the councillors who sit in this chamber will have to take on board and look at as we go forward. As my colleague, Alderman Guy, has said, we had a very useful process, that process needs to be carried on through the incoming term of a new council to ensure that if there are issues that can be dealt with earlier, they can be dealt with. There's nobody in this chamber will disagree with the premise that teachers, nurses, rail workers, whoever, deserve better pay. That's without our responsibility. The responsibility that we have is to our own staff, and we have taken that responsibility head on and worked with our council staff. That may be an ongoing situation next year again that council will have to deal with. But if I can be parochial, if I look at my own area across Cyan Mills, Newton Stewart, Castleberg and beyond, whether it's Mornside Walk, whether it's regeneration, Newton Stewart, whether it's the ongoing levelling up fund, there are projects on the cusp of commencement. And mention has been made of Strabane Town and the shortcomings there. But I'm darn sure of one thing. I am not going to jeopardise projects that I know are on the way for my area. And you all know in this chamber that I have cried and moaned and pushed for such development within my area. And I am not going to jeopardise that in any way locally within my own EA. I don't want a 7.97% rise in rates. But I haven't heard through all of the working groups and everything else, I haven't heard what the alternative is. Well, we did hear what the alternative was. Our officers showed us the path to 0% rates rises, and it's certainly not a path that I was prepared to take, or am prepared to take. 7.97 is where we have got to through very, very long negotiation and hard work by officers and members in this chamber. It's regrettably as low as we can get it. Everybody has contributed, and I will be supporting the proposal in front of us with regret and trust that whoever is in this chamber going forward will continue to work to reduce that burden going into future years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. And again, just offering it to the floor to anyone who hasn't previously spoken. No. In that absence, Chief Executive, I'm going to ask you to take us through the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, Alderman Breslin.
For John.
Alderman Devaney.
For John.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey. Alderman Kerrigan.
For John.
Alderman McCready. Alderman McMorris.
For John.
Alderman Thompson,
For John.
Alderman Wark, Councillor Raymond Barr,
Against.
Councillor John Boyle,
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle,
For.
Councillor Carr,
Against.
Councillor Cusick, Councillor Dobbins,
For John.
Councillor Donnelly,
Against.
Councillor Doyle,
Against.
Councillor Alex Duffy,
For.
Councillor Sandra Duffy,
For.
Councillor Farrell, Councillor Ferguson,
For.
Councillor Gallagher,
Against.
Councillor Harkin, Councillor Heaney,
For.
Councillor Jackson,
For.
Councillor Kelly,
For.
Councillor Logue, Councillor McGinley, Councillor McGowan,
For.
Councillor McHugh, Councillor McKinney,
For.
Councillor Mooney,
For.
Councillor Norris, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Riley,
For.
Councillor Sianoy Barr,
For.
Councillor Tierney, Mayor, I've recorded 28 for, 8 against and no abstentions, so the proposal passes.
Okay, thank you to everyone for that. So the district rate has been set at 7.97%. I'm going to pass to the Chief Executive, who's going to take us through some of the detail.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members. So I have to, members, as you know, read the formal rate statement now at this point. So if you bear with me just for a moment. As Chief Financial Officer, in line with Section 6 of the Local Government Finance Act 2011, I am required to report on the adequacy of Council's reserves for a financial year. With due regard to the robust rates process the Council has engaged in over the last number of months, the contingency funds earmarked for the continued economic volatility and financial risks and Council's current general fund balance of 5.188 million, I confirm that this reserve will be adequate for the financing of Council services for 23-24 and is in line with the Department for Communities guidance of between 5% and 7.5% of the net operating expenditure. Further to this, and having considered the detailed report of the lead finance officer on the rates estimates for the year ending 31st of March 2024, I confirm that the Council hereby 1. Approves the rates estimates for the year ending 31st of March 2024, totaling £74,309,747 and authorises the expenditure included in the said estimates. And 2, under and by virtue of the powers contained in Section 3 of the Local Government Finance Act Northern Ireland 2011 and Section 112 of the Local Government Act Northern Ireland 2014, and by other acts and orders hereunto enabling, makes and fixes a district rate of 35.4362 pence in the pound for non-domestic properties and of 0.57 pence in the pound for domestic properties on the rateable value of every hereditament in the district as the respective amounts required to be made by means of each rate in respect of the year ending 31st of March 2024. And this is adopted by the Special Council meeting held today, Friday, the 13th of February 2023, and will be hereto signed by the Mayor. Thank you, members. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes proceedings for today's meeting. I want to thank everybody for attending, for giving their time. It was a difficult process for everyone to be in, and certainly I think it was Alderman Kerrigan said it, but it certainly was the most challenging rates process that I have ever been involved in, and I've been in council now 8 years. And it was difficult, but I thank everybody for the work they did from the outset in terms of the financial working group and then the many long meetings that have been had. The scrutiny the council finances have come under was right and was a good process that we did, and is something that we should continue now for the year ahead. But again, thanking council officers for the work that they have put into this process as well. So thank yous for today.